What's up, dude? What's up, dude? What is up, dude? We are here. Oh, we are here. We're here. We're up in here, dude. Did you make it here? Hope you make it here. Let's see here. Did it share like it's fucking? It did. Ding, ba-ding, boom, boom. Let me see here. Turn on my computer. Okay. Let's see. Okay. We're gonna get some peeps up in here. I'm not tripping on it. What's up? Here we are. Queen Trip's in the house. Queen Trip's up in here. What's up? What's up, Queen Trip? we got one person up over here on Facebook. Ooh. Looks like we got some more people trickling in. You got trickling in, you're trickling in. Let's see. If you're here, say hello. Oh yeah, you're right. Lionel Gate with Candace. That's true. It's all right. I'm not really too worried about it. At least on other platforms, there is nobody I would recommend except for go listen to Candace if you want to listen to Candace. You know what I'm saying? Cheers, mate. Top of the morning to ya. What's up? Yeah, I catch the VOD later. You're right. What's up, Facebook? How's it going, bro? You see the balloons? I'm so happy that you're here, Facebook. We just love when Facebook shows out, don't we? We just love it. Let's get some confetti, dude. Confetti for the Facebook people. What's up? She did go, Max. She did. Yeah, I'm just in a chill ass mood after what she just dropped. Bombshells. Boom, 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 boom. Candace Owens. What's up? Let's see here. Who do we got? We got anyone on anywhere? Okay, we got 7 people, 5 people on Facebook. We've got 4 people up on Twitch. What's up? Who's here? There's no one on YouTube yet. It's all right. It's okay. Oh, I gotta go to YouTube and I gotta change the freaking picture, dude. Because that's how they'll know it's a different one, dude. Hit that save button. If you're here, say hello. What's all, dude? What's all, dude? What's all, dude? What's all? Probably a duck. What's all, dude? What's up, dude? Nicole's here. What's up, Nicole? What's up, Nicole? What's up? All right. Dang, bro. Today's been crazy, dude. How are you guys doing today? How's y'all's day been? How's y'all Thursday been? Seems like it might be a pretty nice evening. What's up, Lawrence? What's up, Lawrence? You're here, bro. You're here, bro. Today was a kind of a long day. Cynthia's in the house. What's up, Cynthia? Cynthia's in the house on Facebook. Let's go. What's up? Nicole's on YouTube. Let's go. What's up? What's up? Hell yeah. Yeah, it's been quite a long time. A long time ago. Just kidding. Wait, isn't that like a fucking Bon Jovi song, I think? What's up from Malaysia? What the fuck from Malaysia? Prestige worldwide. Wide. Let's get some confetti. Let's go. We're worldwide. We're in Malaysia. I thank you, Scruffmeister. Cheers, mate. Top of the morning to ya. All right, you guys ready for today? You guys ready for today? We're going to get into this. You guys ready? Y'all ready for this? Doesn't look like we're too talkative tonight. Well, if you're not talkative, that's okay. But I would just like to start before I get into this mindful message. I'm really trying my best to just keep it always a positive energy, just a coherent resonance. So if you could possibly, oh, actually, I have a clip about Palm Beach Pete right after the mindful message. but, if you could just comment something that you're grateful for, can we just start today's stream off with a little bit of gratitude, bro? I just want to be honest, bro. Thank you. I'm grateful for you, bro. Thank you for coming out, being out here on the live stream on a Thursday evening. We got people coming in, trickling in, bro. I just have to also just say, I'm just so grateful that there's people out there that aren't closed-minded, the ones that are the glitches in the matrix that don't seem to just fall in line with whatever's being fed to them, that ask questions and even asks the hard ones. Those are the type of people that I'm grateful for. I'm tremendously grateful for Team Human. I'm just grateful, grateful that there are people out there that are changing things about themselves so they can progress, not just in this finite materialistic realm, but also in their spirit and their soul. Because if I'm being 100% honest with you, bro, cheerio. There's really only two kinds of people that are even walking around on this planet today. There are the ones who treat human beings like it's just whatever. And then there are the ones who are starting to realize, wait a second, hold up. This is actually the craziest, most unlikely miracle that I could ever experience. One group wakes up, sees their reflection, and then just shrugs. The other group wakes up and at least sometimes thinks, holy shit, I'm literally consciousness in a body on a floating rock in space, breathing air that used to be inside of a tree. That's crazy. So before we go any deeper, ask yourself, like honestly, bro, are you living today like your existence is just random background noise? Or are you living today like it's a once and forever event? You don't even have to tell anybody your answer, but your choices will feel it. If some part of you is ready to see that your life is a miracle again, you can just drop human miracle in the comments and let this be the moment you say yes to actually being here. So let's start stupid simple. Right now, as you listen to this, your lungs are pulling in oxygen that does not exist on its own. It's not just air. It's exhaust from an ancient magic trick called photosynthesis. Somewhere, not even far from you, a green thing you probably walked past without noticing used sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide to turn it into sugar and oxygen. That oxygen is the reason that you can get anxious. It's the reason that you can laugh. It's the reason that you can overthink. It's the reason that you can fall in love and cry to music, listen to someone on the internet talk instead of just thinking about being on this floating rock. Now, science will tell you plainly, if photosynthesis stopped, most food webs would collapse. Oxygen disappears and almost all complex life, including you and me, just like that, cease to exist. That means every inhale is literally powered by a collaboration between the stars and the leaves. Sunlight travels millions of miles just so a plant can catch that sunlight, use alchemy and flip it into chemistry, and then your body takes that chemistry, breathes it in, and then creates thoughts, feelings, emotions, memories, and monologues. You literally are built out of a relay race of miracles that you didn't even have to organize. If you've ever felt worthless lately, just remember, The entire green world is quietly working all day so that you have the privilege of existing long enough to not doubt yourself. Now, if we zoom inside of your skull, you're carrying around like a 3-pound organ that can hold millions of books worth of information, process colors, sounds, faces, emotions, and memories, and then ask, who am I? And why am I here? I'm just really stoned, bro. That's insane. You're made of cells, like tiny bags of molecules, and somehow those molecules arrange themselves into a nervous system that can feel heartbreak, awe, boredom, resistance, and hope, and then have options about those feelings. And then have opinions about your feelings. Sorry. Scientists will tell you we still don't fully understand how consciousness arises. We know it's like linked to your brain, like to networks that are firing between perception and thought. But why that becomes the experience of me is still a mystery. And you're literally that mystery in motion. You are awareness that can taste food and enjoy it, hear a song and get goosebumps, remember a childhood memory and feel it deep within your body, sometimes even visually see something that happened in the past. Your awareness is the awareness that creates worlds in your imagination that don't exist at the same time. And that same awareness can also decide that I'm going to treat this day differently. I'm going to show love differently. I'm going to be kinder to myself in this body that I was given. The fact that you can think about thinking, feel about feeling, is a miracle that's literally an architecture of mystery. You're not just a human, bro. You're like literally reality noticing itself. So now if we zoom out again, your heart is beating because electricity and chemistry are working together on autopilot. If you're still here, cheers. Ion channels open and close, electrical impulses travel, muscles contract in rhythm, so blood can carry oxygen and nutrients to trillions of cells. Gravitational forces keep you standing on the Earth instead of drifting into space. Earth stays in orbit around the sun in a zone where liquid can exist, which is one of the reasons life like ours is even possible. Sunlight hits you and your skin starts to respond. You drink water and your kidneys adjust salt and fluid levels. You eat and your gut turns complex food into energy and building blocks without you even having to understand any of those equations. You live inside of a body that will balance pH, regulate tempo, repair tissues, fights infections, grows, learns, while you think about someone not texting you back or memes or what you might be doing later. You are carried by a universe of silent functions that you did not ask, silent functions that do not ask you to be perfect. They only do it for you, and they ask you just to be here. If one tiny piece changed, if gravity was slightly different, if water didn't behave that it does, if carbon couldn't form complex chains, if photosynthesis never evolved, this specific version of you, it wouldn't even be possible, bro. And every day is a miracle. It's a blessing. It's something to be grateful for. I mean, think about it. You get to see colors. That means photons bounced off of objects and then they hit your retina. They triggered electrical signals, and your brain turned that into blue-green sunset or someone's eyes. You get to hear a sound. which is like pressure waves through the air, moving tiny bones inside of your ear, which wiggle fluid, which bend hair cells that send signals, and then your brain creates music, voice, rain. You get to touch the world. Your skin has receptors that notice heat, pressure, texture, pain, pleasure. Your body builds a map of reality out of sensations. Each one of those, like sight, sound, taste, touch, smell, is a whole chain of microscopic events that end in I like this and I don't like that. You get to love people. Your brain and body release neurotransmitters and hormones. Your memories weigh in, your nervous system opens or closes, and suddenly another human matters more to you almost than anything. You get to laugh, like tiny air bursts through your vocal cords, and then muscles in your face move, your chest responds, and reality is temporarily less heavy. But none of that is guaranteed. And all of it is happening like right now. If you've been waiting for a sign to be grateful, you can just like look around the room that you're in. Every object that you see is interacting with light, gravity, matter, and time, and your ability to even notice it is wild all in itself. And you woke up today, bro, with access to all of this. So to the humans watching this, especially the ones who've been overwhelmed, burned out, or convinced that they're failing, I want you to just take a step back for just 1 second and consider truly how much had to line up perfectly for you to even exist, bro. The universe had to expand, stars had to live and die, elements had to form, planets had to spin in just the right way, life had to emerge, plants had to figure out photosynthesis, supposedly animals had to evolve, nervous systems had to get complex, consciousness then had to flip on, your ancestors had to survive, your parents had to meet, and somehow you still ended up here with a body, a brain, a heart, and a story. You're not insignificant, dude. Your improbability. Improbably insanely specifically here right now. So here's what I would love for you to do with that, okay? Take 1 minute today and thank anything. You can thank God, you could thank the universe, you could thank your plants, you could thank your body, whatever language it is that you use. You thank it for letting you be alive long enough to become whoever it is that you're becoming. And then also, just notice one tiny miracle, like a leaf, a breath, a heartbeat, a beam of light on the wall, somebody's laugh, the taste of your food. And notice that miracle and actually let it land. And then tell yourself today, even once, it's a miracle that I exist. And I'm not going to waste that by hating myself for being human. If this made something inside of you just soften just a little bit, you can just comment Team Human in the comments. I know if you're here, you might not even know it yet, but you're on Team Human. You could also just choose to stick around and hit follow, hit subscribe, share this, repost this, let it ripple out to someone else who needs a reminder that just waking up in a human body is proof that they are sitting inside of a miracle. And if you're watching this on Instagram, you already know what's up. Instagram doesn't share videos that are longer than 3 minutes with anyone who doesn't already follow me. If you even felt anything, like resonated with anything I said, just a little bit, like I said, please share this, because the only way someone that might also need to hear it will hear it is if you pass it along. That's what the Team Human energy is today. It's not just fighting darkness, but realizing how outrageous it is that we get to be conscious stardust, walking around, loving, hurting, healing, laughing, learning on a planet that's literally powered by light and leaves. You're a miracle, bro. Not metaphorically, like literally. And I love you, bro. How'd you guys like that opening message, huh? How'd you like that one, boy? It's a pretty good one, you know what I'm saying? I hope I fired up your inner divinity, or I hope I just sparked up that fire inside of you. You know what I'm saying, homie? It was lit. I heard that. I wish I didn't heard that, but I heard that. You ever seen that movie? You ever seen that movie? Bro, what is going on old planet Earth today, bro? Oh yeah, my son broke no, I'm not gonna blame my son. It was him who broke it, but it was in the dishwasher in a weird way, and he broke the handle off. But it's got the cute little Ananita muscaria mushrooms. Can we just get? Can you guys just? Oh yeah, the earthquakes, bro. That's so sad, huh? In Venezuela, bro. Shout out Venezuela, bro. We love Venezuela, bro. We love all humans, don't we? Like, dang, anytime something like that tragic happens, I just get sad, and I just like hope everybody survives, you know? We got some shit to get into. Just a couple clips of some things, and then I don't really have a whole lot planned for us today, bud. I think I'm just gonna kind of do that like on Thursday nights, you know, when like Thursday nights is just like a chillax version of the Tripoverdrip stream. Are you guys down with like chillax versions? Every Thursday night, we're gonna be here. If you're new here, bro, if you're new here to Tripoverdrip, bro, Thursday nights around this time, 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, every Thursday night, you're gonna catch me right here. This is your first time here. Can you just say hello if you've never been on one of my live streams before? I don't know. What's up, Dan? We got some people. We got Cynthia, Christina, Caitlin, Theo. What's up, Samuel? Dan, we got some people up over here on freaking Facebook. Let's go, Facebook. If you're here, can you like even just drop your location in the chat, Facebook? You know what I'm saying? I like to see where the message is spreading. I've said this before, but I think I'm a high functioning autist. I'm autistic, but I'm like high functioning. I think my mom may have given me way too much Tylenol when I was a kid. You know what I'm saying? What's up, Christina? New follower? Thanks, bro. About a month ago. Just want you to know I'm grateful for you, homie. Grateful for you. But anyway, so I think I'm autistic and shit. And anyway, so I like to see where everybody is, bro. I have like this weird thing ever since I started creating content. I like to know where everyone's at so I can like visualize the planet and then like put little light house beacons where people say that they are, and then I just imagine light and like positive ripples just like engulfing the planet and shit. That's just me. That's how I see it. I don't know. Maybe it's not has nothing to do with autism or something. I don't know. Missouri, what's up? Las Vegas, New Mexico, let's go, let's go, let's go. PA, which is Pennsylvania, maybe. Guess where I'm at? I'm 10 minutes away from where Charlie Kirk got assassinated. Yeah, that's a heavy hitter, ain't it? That's a heavy hitter, ain't it? Oh yeah, that would actually be cool shit to do. That's a good idea. That's a good idea. Western Australia. Damn, bro. Western Australia, bro. Okay. So
Specifically for Netanyahu, what is your
Okay.
You got Elvis lookalikes, and now there's you. As a Mossad agent.
Okay. Check this out, bro. Someone asked if we were going to talk about Palm Beach Pete, bro. And I had to bring up this clip. Alex Jones.
100% is working directly for Net.
Palm Beach Pete. Alex Jones. Central New York. What's up? Highland, Arkansas. What's up? But yeah, Palm Beach Pete, Alex Jones, everybody.
As a Mossad agent working directly for Netanyahu, what is your game? What is the psyop you're running? Admit it right now, Palm Beach Pete. Admit it right now. We can handle the truth.
He says, right off the rip, he does look so much like fucking Epstein. He says, we know you're a Mossad agent.
Okay, I'll give you the truth. I'll give you the backstory behind that. So it's an honor to be selected to represent your country to play in an international competition. I play in the Maccabi games. I train like a maniac. And my first round match, they put me at 2 o'clock and I'm playing against an Israeli guy. I have no idea who he is. All I know is his name is Moti. And the little Israeli guy is watching me the whole time. And I smoke him the first set. And the little Israeli guy on the sideline says to me, you're going to win the whole thing. You play like McEnroe. So now I'm sort of getting like some shakes from the sun. I have a frozen fruit. I feel good. I beat the guy. I shake hands. I go, I said, Moti, great match. Thank you very much. That's it. I said, Moti, what do you do for a living? And he didn't say what he did. He says, I'm a cop, just like that. So the next day, the little...
Dude, can you just actually imagine, bro? Okay, I really just thought it was funny, like the first clip, bro.
Fashion. I said I'm gonna win the...
I just thought it was...
Now,
whoa!
Internet viral personality. When I went viral a couple of months ago, guys, it's Palm Beach. Guys, it's Palm Beach Pete, and I'm really...
Oh yeah, okay. So let me show you this, bro. Just kidding. You're gonna see me freak out because this guy in itself is a psyop, bro. Okay. You guys know about can I just get some alien emotes in the chat, bro? You guys know Palm Beach Pete, bro. Fuck, man, I just don't like this guy. But he's just everywhere on the internet still and shit. Alien emotes in the chat. Whew. Okay. Probably a duck. What's up, probably a duck? Okay, so on my channel, we've watched a lot of different stuff about Palm Beach Pete. We've seen that his like, okay, so you know what's the one thing about like when people like these murder mysteries and shit, you know how like your dental records are like one way that you can easily identify a body and stuff, right? You can get like with the way with the way that your like mouth structure is, it's almost like a mouth print. They can like figure out who it is and what it is and shit. We've seen some stuff about how Palm Beach Pete seems to have the same little structure on in the bottom of his mouth, the same tattoo, bro. And then he fucking went on Gordo's fucking podcast, bro. He went on Gordo's podcast and Gordo had him tied up to a fucking lie detector test and asked him a whole bunch of crazy questions. He failed some of them, looked suspicious on some of them. And then this dude decided he was going to run for the mayor of Palm Beach. And this is what happened. He had to submit a DNA test. Yeah, shout out Gordo. But he had to submit a DNA test, and we're just going to let him talk. We'll just let old Jeffrey Epstein looking ass motherfucker talk.
Guys, it's Palm Beach Pete, and I'm really pissed. I got a letter from the Division of Elections from the state of Florida regarding the irregularities concerning my DNA test, and they're asking me to suspend my campaign and take a step back. I'm not going to suspend the campaign. I'm getting legal involved, but I'll be back. I'm going to be traveling for a while, so you're not going to see me around for a bit, but I'll make the best mayor Palm Beach ever had, and I'll fight this tooth and nail. Peace out, Palm Beach Pete.
How gay. He's like, coming back, bro. Don't worry about me, guys. I'm going to be the best mayor the Palm Beach ever had. He just said the Department of Elections sent me a letter saying that there were some some things that weren't regular in my DNA test. I can never say that word. Irregularities. That word just sounds so weird to me. Irregularities. I don't even. Does it sound like that? I don't know. I'm a weird ass dude. Sorry, but I just this fucking dude, bro. Dude, Jesse Michaels, which one, Scotty? The Spielberg one that just came out about Disclosure Day? Jesse Michaels is the UFO GOAT, bro. But I wanted to actually, this one is the first one that came up, bro. But I wanted to look up mayor. He's like, I'm running for mayor.
Guys, it's Palm Beach Pete.
Guys, look at
I don't believe you are Epstein himself, but you do look so much like him. I just have to ask you this question. Is your penis shaped like an egg?
Is your penis shaped like... Oh, right here.
You have been, I'm throwing my hat.
Being an undercover agent for Mossad.
Yeah.
What is your response to these allegations?
You know, hat in the ring to run for... Hey guys, it's Palm Beach Pete, and I'm throwing my hat in the ring to run for mayor. And look at this water behind me. So the water in Palm Beach, it's not conducive for pizza or bagels.
Isn't that weird? Isn't that weird? A fucking dude that looks like a sex trafficker is talking about the quality of pizza in Palm Beach. That's weird, bro. Weird. That's smeared, bro. Oh, yeah. I wanted to let this fucking douchebag talk for a second so I could clown his ass.
I've seen more anti-Semitism on the right in the last 18 months than any time in my life. And it is spreading like a cancer. Tucker Carlson is the most dangerous demagogue in America.
He says, guys, anti-Semitism is the most dangerous thing on the right. Come on, bro. You're telling me that there aren't people on the left that are disagreeing with you because Israel's killing children, bro? You know what I'm saying? Has nothing to do with the left or the right, and Tucker Carlson is a demagogue. Shut your ass up, fucking troll. Okay, so if everybody here's a little bit of fucking health news for everybody. I don't know if you guys heard, but breaking news: the Supreme Court just derailed thousands of lawsuits against Monsanto for glyphosate causing cancer. In a 7-2 ruling, they sided with Monsanto and blocked cancer victims from suing them over not having cancer warnings. Let's hear what homie's got to say.
Them for the Supreme Court just sided with Monsanto and their cancer-causing weed killer glyphosate that has already invaded over 90% of Americans' bodies. And this is going to derail thousands of lawsuits against Monsanto for individuals who developed cancer. The Supreme Court ruled 7-2, basically that under state law, you can't sue them for omitting cancer risks on their labeling because they don't say it has a cancer risk. And so people were suing them. And so now the Supreme Court is claiming that the EPA says it's not carcinogenic, so therefore, it doesn't matter And we're just going to derail all these lawsuits because there's nothing to see here, but it's all BS. We have multiple studies now. One in rats just came out. They exposed the rats to safe levels of glyphosate, so-called safe. It caused over 10 cancers in the rats. They had tumors everywhere. Human epidemiological studies show increased cancer risks when exposed to glyphosate. And the study that declares that regulators relied on to claim.
See, this is honest to God, bro. This is where it starts to get crazy, right? They're supposed to be like, how do I say this? In the world that is presented to you, it's perceived to be that it's supposed to be that the government is doing what's in the best interest for the people that they govern. So how is it that there was a pesticide company whose product caused cancer and they knew that it caused cancer but didn't put a label on it saying, hey, this is carcinogenic? How is it even likely or possible or allowed that that same government that's supposed to be doing the will of the people that it governs in a world that is the way that the world is perceived that it's supposed to be, how can they rule that how can they rule that that's not a thing? Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah, just like Vanessa just said, bro. That's like dead ass right now in your face proof that this company is killing people, and that nobody's gonna stop them. They're just gonna keep killing people. Well, I mean, when when governments do that, or the terrorists just kill people, we're like, we step in and we're like, all right, we're gonna be the police of the world and we're gonna make sure everybody has democracy. But they're not going to do that when there's like a company involved in chemicals. I don't know. I wonder if Dr. Fauci and Monsanto are homies, you know? Or maybe I wonder if Dr. Fauci was the only doctor that had connections into the government. I don't think that there was. You probably don't think that there was either. I'm not going to give you any context to this video. We're just going to jump straight right up in this motherfucker. This is on Mount Shasta. You guys know about Mount Shasta? If you know about Mount Shasta, you could just drop alien emotes in the chat. This woman is just riding on horseback and she's going somewhere up on Mount Shasta.
We have a pretty wild find here.
Where is that coming from? It's like it's way over there, but it's also right here. Oh my God. Oh. Oh my God. This is straight apocalyptic.
Do you know what those are, bro?
Somebody is summoning something here.
What is going on at this location?
It's a little freaking creepy. Hold on.
Which goes on to find more here.
So there's this one. Noah seems unfazed by it. But then look, over here. You hear that noise? There's a mountain.
Dude. Like, what the shit, bro? Like little tiny solar paneled speakers that just make these weird chanting noises all the time. Do you think that they're all set specifically to be together and each one has a specific frequency, so the collective sound makes a certain frequency that attracts in aliens? What the fuck, bro?
Oh, stop. Get back. Get your foot. You're going to step on it. No, back up. Back up. Hey, look at.
So what is really going on at this location? This is Mount Shasta, the legendary location, and this Carrie Ann horseback riding.
Seems fucking crazy, huh? It seems fucking crazy, bro. All right, I just wanted to look at this real quick. It seems to me here that this looks like a patent, right? And this is a patent that was paid for and funded by what looks to be the Rockefeller University in New York. And the abstract comment on the bottom of it says, the present invention provides methods and compositions for the remote control of cell function based on the use of radio frequency waves and to excite nanoparticles targeted to specific cell types. The nanoparticles may be applied to the target cell extracellularly and or expressed intracellularly. The cell type of interest expresses a temperature-sensitive channel wherein excitation of the nanoparticles resulted in a localized temperature increase that is transduced into a cellular response, bro. That's crazy. 5G waves, 6G waves, bro. Remote control your cells, bro. Who is Rhonda 911? I don't know. She only has 4,000 followers. You can't believe everything you see, bro. I just wanted to show you something that I saw on the internet. The internet's full of propaganda. Be aware of misinformation, bro. You never know, but you know, if it's there, it's there. You know, you got to just decipher and pilfer through all the bullshit. JP Spears, you know this gentleman right here?
Definitely got in.
JP Spears, you know him? I like this guy. This guy makes me laugh almost every single day, bro. Almost every single day, JP Spears. Let's listen to what he's got to say.
Well, they definitely got into business together, and that's fun. But the interesting part isn't the business, it's the timing. In 2015 and 2016, the late Jeffrey Epstein invested a total of $40 million into Valor Ventures, a firm co-founded by Thiel. And the timing of that raises the hair on the back of the necks of skeptics, because that was well after Epstein was convicted of That's atrocious of Peter Thiel, some would say. But not really, when you think about it the right way, because inside Thiel's head, he's probably going, hey, that guy might be a trafficker. I don't want anything to do with that. I just want the trafficker's money. Oh, well, that's fine. But did any of his money that you're accepting come from trafficking? No, it came from his bank account. Well, they definitely got...
It's interesting, you know what I mean? You really got to take into consideration, like, the motherfuckers that be working with Diddy. Not Diddy, sorry. With Diddy, too, but, you know, the people who freaking work with Epstein, that Epstein was giving money to. Like, what about all of these institutions and these you know, universities, whatever, all of it. The stuff into consciousness, robotics, AI, all that stuff with Epstein. All of it was being funded. And it was all, everything's like, seems to me is like it's all being held up by money that was created by children being abused. It's kind of fucked up if you really think about it, right? Let's just go ahead and just
So awful.
You guys like Redacted? You know who Redacted is? If you're here, say, what's goody in the hoodie? I got 3 chats, and so I can't necessarily see who everybody is all up in here at every single time. What's up, Sammy, sweetheart? She's up in the chat. What's good? Redacted's goated, bro.
Files also have data on who the child's parents are. Want to make some money? Sell off one of your child's kidneys. $30,000 on the black market. Great and highly lucrative business. We had Tim Ballard, and I'll just get us out of here on this point. Like, we had Tim Ballard on the show, who, of course, was featured prominently in the Sound of Freedom show, the movie. Jim Caviezel plays him in the Sound of Freedom. So I asked him about this, and specifically we talked about Ukraine and one of the multinational rings of child trafficking that he was able to bust up with his team started in Ukraine. And he went into great detail about that. If you want to seek out more information on that, I encourage you to go.
Yeah, late stream for me. Thursday nights, I just like I stream like midday every day, you know, like at 12 or whatever, and so I want to do one. It's mostly just like a chill. It's like a night that I'm just like, we pull up some clips, not really too structured, not really anything too serious. Kevin is a human is up in the house, bro. Shout out, Kevin is a human, the goat. Kevin is a human's up in here.
Watch my full deep dive hour-long interview with Tim Ballard on that specific point. And we got later in the interview to talking about organ harvesting. And he said, thank you for covering this topic. No one wants to talk about it. No one will ask me these questions about it. No one will cover this part of the story. And yet it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. And the human trafficking element of this is upwards of $200 billion. So you think about the billions of dollars being made by taking these women, putting them in these bunkers, selling off their babies. This is what's happening before our eyes right now. And you discover these documents, you find these Red Cross documents that Russia says it was going to investigate in Mariupol. I don't know the outset or the outcome of that investigation yet, and if they've been able to confirm that.
It's all of them, bro. It seems to me that it's all of them, dude. Oh, have you guys seen this orb, bro? This orb is crazy. This one. There's no sound, bro. But it looks to be as if there's something behind it, right? Like if I pause it, like right in the beginning, boom, you can see like something kind of holding the orb. You know what I mean? Almost like a fucking reptile. I don't know. Seems crazy, bro. What the fuck is going on? What the shit is going on, YouTube? What's up, YouTube? Dude, we're probably coming up over here and we're going to just catch up on some Mind Unveiled for a little while.
What is Christian Zionism? Where does it come from? Is it Christian? What's your assessment?
Ooh. Christian Zionism. What's your belief on Christian Zionism? Do you think there is such a thing? We got to protect the babies, dude. Just protect the babies. I've watched so many of his videos, bro. So many of his videos. Yeah, we got to protect the babies, bro. We got to protect the babies. Fuck it, we're going here. We're deep diving. We're deep diving into Tartaria, bro.
What?
Tartaria.
We weren't really planning on posting a video today since we're working on a few big projects, but something pretty crazy happened and it made us really think. Basically, Moist Critical, Charlie, otherwise known on YT as Penguin Z0, just found out about Tartaria and our channel was mentioned by someone while he was on stream.
Check out the conspiracy about Tartarian. Is this another reptilian thing? We'll do Tartarian truth. Oh, it's an entire channel. Wait, what is it? I just want the basics. Tartarian truth. The lost city, the lost civilization of Tartaria. This is the truth about Who did you say covered it? Oh, absolutely not, Indy. It's done by a professional. By Mind Unveiled. 52 minutes, Jesus Christ, I just want the cliff notes. Holy shit, the Tartarians have 6 arms. Thanks, reset defensive and proxy. The Irish connection. Or can I just get like a quick, concise breakdown of the Tartarians? The U.S. Constitution is from Tartaria. With a name like that, how can I not at least check this out?
Okay, so for this first part of the explanation, I'm just gonna dive right in. And some of you who may be new to the channel, specifically after watching Charlie's video, may not be used to this certain style and may demand immediate evidence after hearing such far-out concepts. But if you're patient, after explaining the main premise of Tartaria and what we're even discussing, we can go into more detail and provide supporting arguments after the initial brief explanation. Tartaria is the biggest conspiracy, meaning it's not an officially approved narrative, yet in terms of the implications and magnitude of the topics covered and the cognitive dissonance associated with it is so great, it could be rightfully considered the largest conspiracy. Essentially, it all begins with all our taught history being, for the most part, a lie. So much so that it's mind-numbing to even fathom. Sure, there are likely some truths sprinkled in there. I'm not saying that everything that has happened has been faked, but more likely that it was set up to play out in a specific way. What Tartaria boils down to is fabricated histories in stolen cities. For example, what if I was to tell you that New York, Chicago, or any other major United States American city for that matter, was not built in the manner that they tell us, and was actually already here in America before the European settlers? Imagine that our cities are just recycled. That would be too crazy, right? What proof is there to support such a claim? In order to demonstrate this, we would just have to dive into each city's history. And that's kind of the purpose of our City Unveiled videos. Literally a 5-hour documentary on a city, but for this instance, we can do Tampa. And shout out to Old World, Florida. There are the Ybor tunnels, where the mainstream story is that these are prohibition tunnels, and you'll see the same exact story in many other cities. One of the main proofs for Tartaria, and don't worry, we'll explain that word in a bit, but a good argument is these underground tunnels which can be found in almost every downtown American city. Some are small and may have been built in a more recent time, but others are massive and do not line up with the ability and available technology at the time. For example, the Washington...
Oh, wait a second. Wait a second. Real quick, before we get into this, I got to show you something I seen today, bro. Dude, this was in Utah. Mount Tianasi. Where's this guy at, bro? Dang, bro. Where's this dude at? Right here. Nope, Mr. Mountain Beast. Dude, this is insane. I'm telling you, bro, this is in Utah, bro.
I spent 30 days alone hiking hundreds of miles to show you footage never before seen.
So basically, this guy, all of his videos, bro, he hiked like over 100 miles in just like the Utah desert Grand Canyon area, bro. This is insane what he found, bro. Well, for one.
Beautiful. Some kind of statue.
And then you keep hiking. You come over here. Where is he at? Oh, watch this.
Ancient desert mysteries.
What in the fuck is that? In Utah, in the Grand Canyon area, bro?
This is gonna be interesting. So right away, we got this little spot carved into the bedrock. Wow. Looks like there used to be like round pillars. Oh man. With one of those beautiful, colorful roofs. You cannot get enough of that.
There's more, bro. Just chill. There's a lot more.
Wow. Then it gets even better. We just
Yeah, nobody's ever seen this recorded before, bro.
get to go see more and more.
If you back up and he walks out this door and you look on the right side, look at the stairs, bro.
Then it gets even better. We just get to go see more and more and more. Wow, there's something carved under there. There's a round pillar in the corner there. So there's probably more buildings underneath of us. Can you imagine living in one of those? I would take that. Have this be my view every single morning. This is my pool. So the unmatched beauty. So from above, this was like an Olympic-sized swimming pool. And I guarantee you that's what it was. Some big important guy or king. This was his home. That was probably his helper's home, guest home. And he had his own private swimming pool. Like these guys were living, I guess what people call bougie. This was a tub with a more peaceful than we ever will. There was some kind of waterway that led down to here. Oh, I just saw. That's the stairway up to the pool. Yeah, we have this waterway. Comes into here. This must have been his own drinking water or something like that. Then we have another pool. Wow.
I don't know about you, bro, but that definitely looks like Egyptian, Roman type stuff. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of crazy. Why would you need doorways that tall? Like, especially in the ancient times. Why would they? Why, you know what I mean? Look how big this door is too. I checked it. The Wi-Fi is ancient Egyptians in the Grand Canyon. It fits just right into what we're seeing right here, huh? It's crazy. Giants, bro.
Big old pillars here. That is amazing. Everything is sliced right out of the bedrock. Wow. Look at the machine marks. They're so finely done.
Isn't it interesting he said machine marks?
Second room. You can tell had a huge door. Wow. A personal lighting window.
Now check this out. We've seen in here.
Let's bring it like this. Do around hike so in a full.
He's going to show you, compared to him, how big it is.
I'll just give you guys another little size comparison. Just how monstrous this building really is. It is insane. But it really makes me feel alive to be here. Getting more wow, guys, it keeps getting more impressive. Look at these statues up above us. Man. Whoa. This is like a basketball gym-sized room.
That's in Utah, bro. That's in the desert by Utah, Arizona, somewhere, bro. That's so insane. Dude, it was the first time, bro. It was the first time, I promise you, that video right there just showed shit that no human even knew existed, probably, bro. I've been watching this guy for a while, bro. He's been hiking through like the canyons of Utah for a long minute and like seeing all these little ancient houses and stuff in the mountainside. But let's get back to Tartaria. I just wanted to show you some crazy stuff, making maybe touch a little close to home with this video.
10th Street Tunnel under the Chicago River. There are also legends in Pensacola of underground tunnels, yet they have been suppressed from the history books and have been left to oral history because they don't line up with the official PR-approved narrative. Look at this. The Henry B. Plant Museum, otherwise known as the Tampa Bay Hotel. Now to explain this to you, one of the aspects of Tartaria is stolen buildings and lost history. What you'll find is that every city has old world buildings. All you have to do is really question their history. Because if I were to tell you that I'm doubtful that they built this in the way that they tell us, meaning that this could be a repurposed building or an old world structure, most people would look it up and you would be directed to a museum that is in control of the history of that building and you'll be given a story. Most of the time, you'll get a few construction photos, but it's fascinating to find out how poorly documented the construction process was during this time in the early 19th century. It's the same thing. You'll see these buildings that are already mostly done with scaffolding, barely any people, windows in the ground, and clear signs of photo manipulation, which that's an entire subject of its own. Also in Tampa, there's the Ponce de Leon Hotel, which was completely poured concrete, which was supposedly the first of its kind. Also, these hotels in Florida were fully stocked with electricity during a time when Florida really didn't have that much going on, or so we're told. Also, you can see the familiar Russian-style architecture. Ever wonder why it's called St. Petersburg, Florida? Well, it's not just Florida. You can see this in New York, San Francisco, Charleston, St. Louis, and many more. Many times, old world churches downtown have questionable histories as being built or moved several times. You can see these old world buildings everywhere, from Gilded Age mansions and government buildings to small shops downtown. Even colleges, prisons, hospitals, military bases are all structures that do not line up with the official narrative that we are told. Of course, we're talking about structures from the 17th century to the 19th century in America. There's also no proof that they were built in the fashion that they tell us other than state-approved documents, manipulated photos, and just complete lies. There's also the common theme that throughout the downtowns of America, you can see what is often called mud-flooded windows. Of course, the typical answer is that these are just basements, but that doesn't really make that much sense. Some of these downtown areas get extreme flooding. Why would you build like this, especially with cities near the bay? Many of these basements actually have underground windows and doors that lead to nowhere. So this would imply that the streets actually used to be a lower level and then they were raised. We know this was done for a fact in Atlanta with the viaducts. They completely covered up old Atlanta. This is another interesting theme. Basically, many of these downtown cities in America have underground cities, which make no sense. What, did they just do a bunch of extra work for nothing? Put windows and doors and streets down there for the heck of it? It's more likely that there are lower levels of the cities in America that have been built over. There is indeed evidence that there are massive tunnel systems underneath the majority of American cities. This alone should be enough to question the construction of these cities, as they didn't even have proper waste management until after the 1900s. They were literally defecating in chamber pots in the 1850s. What you have is that there's this complete contradiction with the culture, technology, and population counts needed to create these cities and buildings on this magnitude and scale in such a short time frame. They were building structures in the US in just a few years that were taking hundreds of years back in Europe. Let's keep in mind what we're discussing. Many of the downtowns in America have old world buildings that do not have an in-depth historical record. Some buildings have no construction photos at all, yet they feel very out of place for the time period that they're said to be built in. Again, if you want proof, that takes time, and we would have to list the buildings one by one as we've done in other videos. Because, again, in some cases, we're talking about buildings from 200 years ago. It's not too hard to manipulate information over multiple generations. If we look at what was being taught in public schools just 50 years ago versus what's being taught now, there's really very little consistency. Why is it so crazy to question that the buildings that were being built all across America, even the ones from the early 1900s in some cases, and one of the things that Charlie demanded for was evidence. Evidence. Well,
real quick, does everybody just curious, you know what I'm saying? Did everybody catch the little phoenix? It's just for people who have eyes to see.
agree. Where is the evidence that they built these old world buildings? Construction photos? You'd be surprised to know how many fake photos were used during war. Actually, all wars, Civil Wars, World War I and II, both extensively used photo manipulations to reinforce the narratives being spread through newspapers and even radio. So I could just say I'm doubtful of those construction photos, in the same exact way that Moist doubted the legitimacy of the 1540s map depicting castles in America. Yes, one is crayon, right? But it's quite clear that it's depicting castles in America in the 1540s and does not seem to be manipulated. Photos, yes, even construction photos, have been found to be complete fakes. There are other maps that show castles in America, including the early engravings of America depicting massive cities, but not only that, the 7 cities of Cibola from Joan Martinez's chart of 1578 is a map that depicts the 7 cities of Cibola, which were the mythical lands of gold that the Spanish believed to exist somewhere in the southwest of North America. Here is a depiction on the maps. Massive castle-like fortified cities. If you'd ask me, I trust these ancient manuscripts more than these low-quality construction.
Wait a second. You're telling me right now we got someone that's from Iceland, bro? Someone up in here on YouTube is fucking from Iceland, bro? What? Dang, bro. That's super dope, bro. That's super dope.
Photos given to us by some of these museums. Don't believe it? Is this photo of a Mormon construction site real? Most would automatically assume, since it's an old photo, that equals proof. But that's not true. It's a complete fabrication.
You can just find this guy. Julia, his name is Mind Unveiled.
Look at the vanilla skies. No faces, floating ladder. They would paint on historic photos. We have an entire video exposing this history of photo manipulation. This would imply that they did not actually build these temples in such a short time span.
If you know, you know. I live in the great state of Utah, bro, and I just have to say that this Mormon Masonic Tartaria connection just really hits close to home, homie. Because all the Mormon temples right here, look, bro, they all look like fucking Tartarian architecture.
This would imply that they did not actually build these temples in such a short time span. The Mormons were said to have created multiple massive temple churches with no modern technology, and yet they're photo manipulating photos. And on top of that, the Book of Mormon actually says there were advanced civilizations in America before Columbus, and that they actually had cities here in America. Now I know there's a bunch of really crazy stuff in there. It might not be proof, but it's strange that they even mention that. How can we trust the history of these old world buildings when our historical record on many of these buildings is scarce? And you want to know the main reason why? Because there's been a great fire in every major American city, and I don't think that was by accident. Some people say, oh, it was because of candles, or that they didn't have enough resources to carry the water and put out the fire or whatever. But they say that the Chicago fire was started by a cow kicking over a lantern that ended up causing over $200 million in damages. Which makes no sense. They were supposedly building these brick buildings to be entirely fireproof, so why do we see so many fires in Chicago, New York, Detroit, San Francisco, all over America? And let's not forget the World Fairs, which we'll explain in a bit. But they didn't have insurance back then. You think they were just building these massive brick buildings and underground tunnels all across America just to go in and actively destroy it with fire? And not all of them were accidents. During the Civil War, in Columbia, South Carolina, the Union specifically set the city on fire to destroy the buildings and mills so that they couldn't be used by the South. They did this with many other cities as well, which makes no sense because shortly after the Union came into possession of those lands. Now we're diving deep into this material. We're talking brotherhoods and fabrications of an unimaginable degree, mental mind control and population resets. You don't think that small groups of people in power aren't going to treat Earth and its inhabitants like a game of Sims or Civilization? The reason why we're not privy to this information is that these cities in America were literally founded. That's why they say that in history with the founding of a building or city. They're telling you and then redefining the word so that it doesn't seem like what it is. The next aspect of this alternative history involves secret societies. Yeah, Freemasons, and I know that many think that's a joke, right?
Okay. Okay, just want to give a shout out to everybody who's still here, dude. What's up? We got 10 on YouTube. We're chilling with freaking 10 on 10 on YouTube, 10 on Twitch. What's up, dude? You guys here for this? It's getting deep. You guys ready? What's up, dude? We're talking about Freemasons now, bro. We're talking about Freemasonry now, bro. Sammy Sweetheart's still up in the house. Let's go. Let's get back into this. Brittany, of course, bro. Dang. Look. Peace out, Lawrence. Love you, bro. Born in the land of fire and ice, we were taught that the Vikings, OG Denmark, settled. They say it was found in the year 800s. That was when the Christians arrived. Dang, dude, it feels so cool. Can I just say, someone in Iceland, bro? I'm telling you, bro, that's insane, bro. Prestige worldwide. Whoa, it was muted, bro. Oh. I'm sorry, bro. It was muted. Let me go back here. It was muted for all that. Sorry. I appreciate you, Vanessa. What's up, Eternity? I see you, bro.
What it is. The next aspect of this alternative history involves secret societies. Yeah, Freemasons, and I know that many think that's a joke, right? But we aren't approaching this from your typical Illuminati Christian perspective, or not even from a conspiracy point of view, trying to blame everything on the evil Freemasons or something. No. Instead, we're discussing secret societies from a historical perspective. Go look up Oddfellows, and go to your downtown and notice how every downtown has or has had an Oddfellow lodge. If Freemason, Oddfellow, and Catholic Knight societies had lodges in every American city, is that not suspicious and or at least worthy of a note in the history books? Yes, obviously, Freemasons and Oddfellows in the modern day are not the same thing that they were 100 years ago. Nowadays, if you go to a lodge, there's a bunch of old people getting together and talking about life. But back in the day, they were doing all sorts of rituals. The Freemasons aren't the ones in control. Neither are the Oddfellows. They are the mind-controlled orphans ruled by the Venetian families. They are the top orphans of the club. Secret societies have always been prevalent in the Catholic Church. These Freemasons were called Knights, and they evolved into the modern groups that we know as Freemasons and what we know in the public today as the Illuminati.
The Illuminati. Real quick, can I just make sure? Can we get some more? I'm trying to get some more people up in the Discord, bro. I just want more peeps in the Discord, bro. Hey, there we are, bro. What's up, dude? Let me just drop the link. Can we get some more people joining the Discord, bro? I dropped the link in every chat, even Twitch. You never know. You guys should come join the Discord, bro. Because Vanessa, you've recently become friends with the Freemason. Shit, let's have bring that to the Discord, bro. Let us know some information. We got all that stuff. Oh, look. Rockefellers right there. We got a chat for secret societies and stuff, bro. Absolutely, Scott. Absolutely, Scott. That's what it's for. We're building community, bro. Sometimes there's a lot of people out there, bro, that don't necessarily have people to talk to, bro. And I'm happy that the Discord channel has become something that allows people to do that, bro. You know what I mean? Maybe there's something crazy on the internet that you see and you're like, fuck, man, no one that I have around in my actual life it's going to understand any of this stuff. Boom, you just go talk it in the Discord. You know what I mean? Like, damn, did you see the reptilian video? You know what I'm saying? But I would love for Vanessa to join. She said that she just became friends with the Freemason. I'm down to talk to them all, bro. You guys can see it. The Discord's lit as fuck. It's on the chat. The Discord's lit.
These have always been prevalent in the Catholic Church. These Freemasons were called Knights, and they evolved into the modern groups that we know as Freemasons and what we know in the public today as the Illuminati. But the Freemasons are not the Illuminati or the people in control. These Catholic orphans in the 1700s that actually go back to earlier societies as the Rosicrucians and the Knights Templar, all of which were controlled by the Church as pawns in the play of divide and conquer. So these Catholic orphans started their own society, the Odd Fellows, to educate the orphan. And it's weird because they have these massive old world buildings with no construction photos that were also used as asylums and orphanages in many early American cities. They also contributed greatly to funding the schools and providing hospitals for a large amount of cities in America. These Odd Fellows were just a bunch of odd fellows, and we're supposed to believe that they were just philanthropists giving all their money to the needy. That's the story they want you to believe. But this is when it gets dark, and this is all according to the official story, factual. During the 1820 to 1950 period, there was an abundance of orphan trains that would move children from Europe all around the United States.
If you know, you know. You could just comment. You can just comment something along like, what's up, Cabbage Patch Kids? Pay attention. Yeah, you know, Cabbage Patch Kids. You know what I'm talking about, bruh. You couldn't even hear me. I didn't freaking mute it. You could just comment the Cabbage Patch Kids, something about the Cabbage Patch Kids, because it's about to get crazy.
This is all according to the official story.
Whoa. I switched my mics up. What's going down? Can you not hear me? Oh, you can. I was looking at something different. Dang, you can hear me. You guys have been able to hear me this whole time. I was looking at the wrong audio source, thinking I was muted, messing around with it. I've been smoking all day, bro. Can I bring in and just let you like look at the... Can you see my beautiful blue eyes behind those reddish white eyeballs?
Supposed to believe that they were just philanthropists giving all their money to the needy. That's the story they want you to believe. But this is when it gets dark, and this is all according to the official story, factual. During the 1820 to 1950 period, there was an abundance of orphan trains that would move children from Europe all around the United States. They would do this to repopulate cities and use children for forced labor. This was going on before the 1800s, as before the Oddfellows, there were the foundling hospitals, many of which have old world architecture and are quite massive. They were also used as sanitariums. Just to remind you, because yes, this does tie back to Tartaria, right now we're discussing orphans and brotherhoods because we're attempting to show you how history could easily be manipulated and or fabricated. We will come back to the buildings in just a moment. The foundling hospital logo clearly depicts Diana of Ephesus, the queen bee, and the star of Ishtar. Now this is when we get into the importance of occult symbolism, another subject too in-depth to discuss in detail at the moment, but this is a clear reference to genetic coding. We have an entire video on this subject. It's pretty mind-blowing. But the ancients and medieval alchemists were well aware of creating humans from within a tube. This process is actually described in detail by Paracelsus. Many of the most enlightened minds of the Renaissance period believed it to be possible to create a fully formed human without the use of sex.
Whoa. To create a fully formed human without the use of sex. Can we get humonculus in the chat?
Also, the Cabbage Patch Kids from the 1980s are not just some crazy doll hype where people would beat each other up in order to get one. No, this concept of babies being grown in cabbages has a much darker history. We have a massive collection of French postcards from the early 1900s that depict children being grown and sold.
Vanessa, if you have Discord, okay, if you have Discord, you can just click that link and it will take you right to the chat, right to my group chat.
In cabbage patches. And no, it's not just a friendly, funny postcard. There were hundreds of these, and some of them are real photos of babies, most likely orphans. They are showing us through symbols the process of repopulation. We have proof of this because the first reference to cabbage patches in growing humans is actually from an 1896 film, which was the first movie ever made, La Fée aux Choux, by the female director Alice Guy. Go watch that movie and tell me it's not disturbing the way she threw around those babies. Alice Guy said herself that she made this film to promote the 1896 incubators at the World's Fair in Paris. So these World Fairs were used for selling children. They were literally called hatcheries, and there's even a postcard from the 1900s that showed this. Were they growing children in incubators for the process of repopulation? It's described in the artwork clearly. So what you have is empty cities, buildings that were founded, and these buildings were then found by a group of cult orphans that we call Freemasons basically. And they founded these orphanages and asylums for repopulating these cities. Then they fed us our history and even the rituals of the holidays. Many other mind control games that we play as children, like Pin the Tail on the Donkey, where we were actually secretly initiated into their club.
What the fuck? Whoa, 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 whoa. What a perfect image of that guy looking right at that donkey's butthole, though, huh? Like, just right here. It's just like, I just stopped it perfectly. You're telling me right now that Pin the Tail on the Donkey is like a Masonic initiation ritual. What the fuck?
And this phenomena of Tartaria, lost buildings, and civilizations is not just with the US. This is actually the same thing in every European city as well. It's everywhere, and this gets into the...
You were right, Sammy. That is a goat. That wasn't a donkey. So is that a bafflement reference in that imagery, bro?
And this phenomena of Tartaria, lost buildings, and civilizations is not just with the US. This is actually the same thing in every European city as well. It's everywhere, and this gets into the idea that Tartaria was a global civilization because many of these old world buildings that you see in America resemble European architecture. It's not just in America, you can find this exact same style of government buildings all around the world. I'll explain that soon, but I wanted to start with America because Charlie was saying, why would anyone look into this? That people just want to make stuff up for no reason. But I don't think you could easily make this stuff up, to be honest. I also think he doesn't fully understand what we're discussing, but I really don't blame him. There's still a lot of work to be done. The interesting thing about these buildings is that it's actually shocking to find out how bad the historical record is when it comes to the creation of many of these old world buildings in America. Also, not to mention the amount of buildings that were lost or destroyed to fires. It's important to understand our history, and if it's true that some of these buildings in America were actually here before the so-called settlers, then what would that imply? Would that mean that there was an advanced culture in America, and that it wasn't just primitive Native Americans when the Europeans arrived, like we're told? Now, I know that people who may be new and from his channel may think, okay, where's the evidence? I mean, come on, where's the evidence? And it's this automatic source type thinking that's honestly really limiting. That's not to say it's bad to source and document things. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying most of the time, people are demanding some university-approved mainstream sources, but when it comes to alternative history, many of the things we're discussing do not have an authorized answer because we are questioning and challenging histories that were set hundreds of years ago. Many of our historical records for before the 1700s are just court documents that could have been easily altered or forged by the ruling elite. We're given a history, much of which could have been easily fabricated. And we're just talking letters, documents, photos. It is possible to fake. For example, if we're discussing the Civil War and I say that it's fake, it's all a lie, and you say, where's your evidence? Well, there is no official evidence. That doesn't mean anything.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. This shit's kind of crazy, dude. Abraham Lincoln and Jefferson Davis, they look like clones, bro. Are these fucking clones, bro? Seems crazy.
For example, if we're discussing the Civil War and I say that it's fake, it's all a lie, and you say, where's your evidence? Well, there is no official evidence.
That's the image. Look at that. Is that a Freemason fucking logo, bro? Is that a fucking compass, bro? A square and compass? The Freemason logo on an American ship?
That doesn't mean anything. What is evidence? A history book from the university or the museum's telling you the story? Is that evidence for you? Many times people walk right into a museum, learn the history, yet none of these Reddit-minded people who immediately demand evidence say anything to these museums. Some of them are using modern paintings, and the historical photos that they do show many times are photo manipulated. But what if I show you the clearly staged and photo manipulated photos of the Civil War? And also the fact that they had cameras during that time, but there's not one photo of the actual war? Would you not be questionable? I could go on.
That one actually looked kind of fucking like drawn on and painted.
Photo of the actual war.
Okay, maybe it's just me. But this looks painted or drawn with a pencil, bro. And this is supposed to be like a this is supposed to be like an accurate photo of the war, bro. Seems weird.
Would you not be questionable? I could go on listing all the Freemasons who were both on Union and Confederate sides. It was a stage, a brotherly act in which they were executing divide and conquer. And it's the same exact strategy today. Essentially, first you have these empty cities in America, and we could discuss more on why that is and what happened, but essentially, you have cities that were hijacked and emptied out. Now, I'm not saying this is proof, as I know how easily photos can be manipulated, but there are several photos from the 19th century showing cities being completely empty with no people. And no, it's not exposure issues. Look at the San Francisco panorama from 1860 in HD. Now, explain to me, why don't they have full-on HD photos for the construction process of some of these older architectures in other cities? Also, I don't think that these have been manipulated, as why would you photo manipulate a city to be empty? To make it look more presentable? To who? And that's a lot of work. Who would be asking a photographer to edit out all the people? And if we're willing to consider the idea that a photographer...
Okay, so if we go back just a few clicks. Okay, so for observing this image, this is supposedly an image of what you can look if you look around quite a bit of structures. It's not just a few. It looks to me like there's lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of structures. And you're telling me that these roads are completely empty. They literally look like ghost towns. Like, yeah, where are the people?
A lot of work. Who would be asking a photographer to edit out all the people? And if we're willing to consider the idea that a photographer went in and masked out every single person, but are not willing to consider that construction photos can be faked, then I don't know what to tell you. It seems more logical to conclude that these photos have little to no manipulation, and many cities, including Chicago, were ghost cities in the early 1900s. Most of the time, photo manipulation was used to add people back into photos because they were so dull and depressing, they needed to give it the illusion of having more life. That may be too much of a leap for most people, but what you have to understand is the control of the media and information. Back then, pictures were the media, and there was and still is so much power in an image. This was well known back then. There's also power behind the narrative or history behind a place, building, or event. Why is it so crazy to assume that the propaganda and lies that we see in the modern day are in fact the result of a much deeper history that involves the inheriting of the treasures of the ancients? Or in other words, our city's infrastructures were already here. Many of the old world buildings in downtowns, or boom towns, are actually the remnants of old world cities that were not American, or at least built in the fashion they tell us. So yeah, all of American history is a huge fabrication. That's number one. Now, if you want me to explain that, that takes time. I noticed that Charlie couldn't even imagine the concept of watching a 50-minute video, but then how are you going to say there's no evidence? There are definitely arguments to support the claim that American history has been heavily distorted and manipulated. With that said, that was the brief explanation, and understand that I'm attempting to compress a vast subject while at the same time accommodating short attention spans. I haven't even really got to the main definition of what Tartaria is. It seems that the best way to approach this was just to jump into it, because many have not even considered that American cities could have been hijacked cities, so I wanted to focus more on that rather than getting into the semantics on what exactly is Tartaria. But now, I can explain that in more detail, which should answer many of your questions of exactly what we're discussing. Okay, so we begin the detailed explanation by moving to terms. Our definition of Tartaria may differ from other researchers' definition of the term, so we need to first establish what are we talking about, because Charlie kept saying, oh, what are the Tartarians? Are they reptilians or underground apartment dwellers? Well, let's give the shortest definition possible. Tartaria is really just lost old world history.
Yeah, the beginning of this video started off as if a pretty big streamer was referencing one of his videos and like basically just like downplaying the idea of Tartaria, and that's when he like jumped into it.
That's it. Obviously, there's more to it than just that. What is history? Can history be faked or tampered with? Many are willing to accept that the mainstream media can lie in the modern day. People still have issues trusting authority in recent times, but why does that same logic not apply to the history books? Let me just give you a couple things to consider before we give a definition. For example, with the World's Fairs. Now hold on, the story that we're given is that these architectures seen in these photos of the World's Fair in America during the early 1900s were all just built in a short 2 to 3 year span with no construction photos, and that they were all built from wooden pallets. Now really think about that for a second. Look at the Chicago's World's Fair. You see these embankments? And notice the level of detail on this architecture? Even if this was just wood, this would have been a massive feat. Yet, all we get for a historic record of the construction is some shoddy footage that actually comes from a movie about the World's Fair, and that's it. There wasn't just one World's Fair either, but several in the United States during the 1900s. So they just built these massive World's Fairs just to tear them down a couple years later? Many cities had these, even Louisville, Kentucky and Nashville, Tennessee. I mean, really look how massive some of these things are. They are entire cities. And so, this brings up several questions. Were these buildings truly built the way that we have been taught? Or were they already here? If you type in Tartaria, the basic gist of what they'll tell you is that Tartaria was a global lost civilization with advanced technology that appeared on old maps and was erased from history. As Charlie mentioned, a lot of the main points seem to be old maps, and yes, this may not be conclusive, especially with the maps that just say Tartary on it, but I do think a map from 1540 depicting castles in America, regardless if it's crayon or not, is quite suspicious regarding the history that they tell us in the founding of America. Also, Charlie kept equating Tartaria to Atlantis, which is fair, but to make the distinction clear, the idea of Tartaria is from a much more recent time. Meaning, when people are talking about Tartaria, they're actually talking about the 1500s to 1700s period, where a civilization that existed in a far more recent time was left out from the history books, specifically because it was hijacked. Where's the evidence? Where's the source? Well, now we're getting into alternative history and false timelines. Let's start with the evidence on how the whole story of Pompeii is a complete fabrication. There are a number of glaring inconsistencies in the academically approved narrative of the city's destruction, and many arguments that support that Pompeii is actually from the 1600s and not 2,000 years ago as the history books tell us. Some inconsistencies include the frescoes that were discovered there and dated to 79 AD actually resemble the techniques used by medieval painters, including the famous painting of the Three Graces found in the House of the Three Graces in Pompeii. Furthermore, Vesuvius can be seen on 16th century maps, showing that the volcano was active long after the traditional date of their eruption, and Pompeii was not in fact lost. There's a 1631 memorial plaque on the road to Naples that lists Pompeii and Herculaneum as the victims of the 1631 eruption of Vesuvius. There were surgical tools in Pompeii that were not supposed to exist during that time, yet they were found in Pompeii and are dated to 2,000 years ago, yet they resemble medieval surgical tools? Oh yeah, and how could there be pineapples in their frescoes if the pineapple wasn't introduced into Europe until 1493? Let's keep in mind that Pompeii was supposedly discovered in 1748. Again, we have an entire video breaking this down. The evidence is there, you just have to be willing to look. But okay, let's try to define Tartaria again. Tartaria is a term that became popular around the 2018 to 2020 period before it became quickly filtered by YT's algorithm. Tartaria is basically the next big conspiracy after FE. If you don't know anything about history, that may be the only way to explain it to you. It's a massive rabbit hole that questions all of our official history. The difference is Tartaria is alternative history and FE is alternative cosmology. It gets interesting because Charlie was trying to bunch all the conspiracies under one label.
If you don't know what he means by when he says FE, he's talking about flat planet.
Implying that Tartaria is just something people want to believe in. He even said that he could do the same thing and just say a bunch of nonsense and make it sound believable. I mean, go for it. But there's much more to this than you want to believe, and I don't blame anyone for not wanting to look into it. But claiming it's just made up is ironic since these people demand evidence without even watching an entire video. Which, like I said, is understandable since they do tend to run long, but without looking into it, it's not very impartial to deem it as nonsense. History, once you dive past all the filler, is filled with mistakes, plot holes, and complete fabrications, and it's hard not to notice those inconsistencies and not ask questions, even questions that might seem obvious or stupid at first. So to finalize the terms, let me give you our definition of Tartaria. Tartaria is the phenomena or category of alternative history that delves into the research of lost history and civilizations, hijacks and stolen buildings, magic, alchemy and cloning, antiquitech, cataclysms, mud floods, buried buildings, star forts and fortified cities, royal bloodlines and secret brotherhoods, asylums, orphans and oddfellows, underground tunnels and waste management, and suppressed Morris history. By labeling Tartaria as simply a civilization, we're missing out on many aspects of this mystery, because that's just one piece. It's not until you have all the pieces that a bigger picture starts to appear. There is evidence for each one of these subjects, but in order to understand Tartaria, we have to have that base. We're about to go down a rabbit hole of history that was not taught to us, so yes, that means there are going to be some things that you have to investigate for yourself, meaning there's no official answer. Keep that in mind, that this is just meant to be a summary, and I can only say so much on each subject. Okay, so let's start off with lost history and civilizations. So yeah, obviously you know about Atlantis, but there are other more recent cultures that were completely wiped and left out from the history books, being instead labeled as fantasy or mythology. One theory that was not started by us and actually has been discussed by several scholars since the 17th century is the Irish origins of civilization.
Whoa. Are you guys ready to go about this? This is a good recap. Ain't this a good recap for everybody who's went down the rabbit hole of Tartaria with me? About now, we're about to be getting into the ancient Irish. The gingers. The gingers. Them freaking gingers.
And yet thus by several scholars since the 17th century is the Irish origins of civilization. And yeah, I get it, that might sound funny to people who have never heard it before, but there's actually a shocking amount of evidence to support that Gaelic and Irish Christianity is in fact the original church and it was just straight up hijacked by the Roman Catholic Church. How do you expect me to give you proof for that in such a short time? I mean, be reasonable. But it's within the etymology, the allegorical references of the Bible that were not meant to be taken literally, but allegorically. One of the best books on the subject is called Irish Wisdom Preserved in Bible and Pyramids by Conor McDarry, which covers in detail the process of hijacking a civilization. Sometimes this might be confusing to people new to this subject, and a typical response is that some people immediately visualize the modern-day Irish people. For sure, many from Ireland with Rh-negative bloodlines are connected to this, but what we're really discussing is the ancient land of Ireland and her peoples. Interestingly, this is where Atlantis connects. Remember, I'm explaining this to a Charlie-like mind, so that immediately sends alarm bells ringing when I say the word Atlantis. But what we're discussing is the progression of civilization. We are told of an east to west movement of civilization, that advanced societies began to rise in Sumeria, Mesopotamia, and Egypt 5,000 years ago, and then slowly migrated to the west over time. But with Tartaria, we're discussing how civilization progressed from west to east, meaning from Atlantis. Here's a quote from Donnelly. I'm not going to read it all, but yes, this is proof that people have been talking about what I just told you for over 200 years. And no, that doesn't mean that all the claims are true, but it does mean I'm not just pulling this out of nowhere. There is a foundation to all of these thoughts, some of which are too extensive to explain in this short video. The point is, after the deluge, or the flood, there were survivors who landed in Ireland and re-established civilization. Now let's get the whole Aryan thing out of the way, because many are automatically programmed to see that word in a certain light. These people were multicultural, and we know this because Aryan did not refer to race. In Sanskrit, it referred to one of honor, a wise man. This gets into the ancient history of Ireland, with the Tuatha-De-Danann and the Fomorians, who after a time of cataclysm had to settle and begin setting up new kingdoms. Now, there is proof to show this, but again, history is so mixed up because the people who set it into motion swapped locations, names, and dates to make it even more confusing. For example, the Phoenicians. This is another subject of Tartaria that we bring up a lot because it also causes a lot of confusion, but it was designed that way. The Phoenicians are the later Canaanites, but they're also the first civilization credited to creating an alphabet, mathematics, and advanced sea navigation. While many researchers have shown the connections between the ancient Phoenicians and the Celts, including the similarity between Gaelic and Semitic languages, mainstream history will say that this is because the Phoenicians settled in Ireland and that the Celts came from their culture. But the difference in art, culture, and oral legend in Ireland is unlike any other in the world, and some of the first megalithic structures were created in Ireland with astrological associations thousands of years before the pyramids. As presented in Irish Wisdom and Bible and Pyramids, the story is actually in reverse. The Phoenicians are the later Hebrews, those of the yew tree, or the corrupted version of the original spirituality. This is what we refer to as the Phoenician hijack, the process in which the old church, the Church of Iessa, or the early Phoenician or Phoenician Celtic Ibernian priesthood was destroyed, plagiarized, and then renamed, suppressed from history. These peoples were then hijacked and became the later Phoenicians, otherwise known as the Canaanites. They became the new church. This is the Holy Roman Empire. The proof is in the language, culture, oral histories, and the forgeries that are within the Bible, as presented by Connor McDarry. The facts presented in that book are undeniable and seen clearly with anyone who has a basic understanding of Irish history. So to explain that in a different way, after the fall of Atlantis, the survivors landed in ancient Ireland. This civilization began to mingle with a variety of other cultures, producing similar legends, traditions, and sciences that were spread across the world. They then made their way to the east and into the Indus Valley. Then the start of Mesopotamian cultures or Arya cultures such as Sumeria or Ardia, and then this continued into Tartaria or Asia. Essentially,
is this glitching for everybody, or can I get a thumbs up or a thumbs down? You can either put a alien emoji or a poop emoji. Just curious. Just curious.
in our research, we connect the Tartarians to the ancient Scythians. This is referenced by several 18th century historians, and the Scythians were the Celts who had traveled east. But again, they tell us the story in reverse. The term Tartar is actually a Gaelic term that is associated with the story of an Irish soldier far out east catching a Tartar, a thief. The reason we bring up Ireland is because there are many researchers who have covered the suppressed history of the ancient Celts and Druids. The Druids were literally the main enemy of the Roman Empire. They were described as savages and barbaric, yet the history that we receive on them come from the Roman historian Josephus himself. So, after Atlantis, the Church of Iessa was established in Ireland and expanded all the way to the Bering Strait, where they actually crossed over and established colonies on the northwest of America as depicted on old maps. The map that you're looking at is the Monte map from 1587. There's some really interesting things on this map, but you can see that there are 3 massive cities in Florida during this time and also elsewhere throughout the US that really shouldn't be on this map. There are also maps that show massive amounts of architecture all over Asia and Africa that are no longer there. And this does not align with the official narrative of that time period. Now, over time, many different nations and cultures were formed. It wasn't just the Irish, and each of these colonies were allowed to start up their own nations. What was originally a system of spiritual allegory with the intention of creating humans with a sense of morality with the pursuit of working for a higher self began to become abused by certain states, and this led to the creation of religion. The confusing part is that we have been fed false timelines since our birth. For example, Rome. Just as we mentioned some inconsistencies with Pompeii, there are many more to consider. One of the most popular points to bring up in the Tartaria community is the works of Fomenko. He's a scholar who has written on the subject of false chronologies and presents the idea that Rome may have added 1,000 years to the timeline in order to extend their power over history. This gets into one of the main chronologers that is responsible for our modern-day timeline, Josephus Scaliger, or what we know as Scaligerian history. What's interesting is that the people responsible for our modern-day chronology were actually religious fanatics attempting to condense all of human history into a 5,000-year time period. Many historical figures throughout time have argued for alternative versions of this chronology, including Isaac Newton. Fomenko's work is quite detailed, showing a number of inconsistencies in dates, historical figures, and dating of major events that have been altered to fit a specific narrative. This isn't conclusive or anything, but definitely interesting to mention. But not only was our calendar system altered in the creation of the Roman Church, but on top of that, they began using a J for a 1. This can be seen in many old plaques, coat of arms, and even buildings, but no one knows why they did this. It just seems to be some type of brotherhood reference to the phantom time hypothesis, that the Roman Church falsified the extent of her rule. Interestingly, J is the 4th least used letter in the modern English alphabet, yet it's said to have been created in the 16th century. But then why do so many biblical names start with...
I just want to point out, he said that the J letter was created in the 16th century. So where did we get Jesus? Oh, yeah, that's right. Because his name wasn't actually Jesus. It was Yeshua. And then they like changed his name when they decided that they were going to use his story to control people spiritually. Maybe just a little quick tangent.
the J. There are hundreds, including Jesus, James, Jeremiah, and it all comes from the Roman Bible. Why so many names with a J, and how many translations is that for a letter that was born in the 16th century and a book that was supposedly written 1,000 years prior? We bring this up because Flamenco specifically points out how the J was also used in dating documents, buildings, and art. It was a method in which they could falsify history through forgery and plagiarism. Again, we're not the ones to come up with this. There's mountains of research to go through on this subject of the Roman Catholic Church and forgery. You'll have to investigate that further if you're looking for your evidence, as we're dealing with history that has been handed to us by royal elites. For example, with Pliny the Younger and Pliny the Elder, and some other famous historians from this era who are also responsible for our perspective of history. Well, the earliest traces of these documents come from the 15th century. The first Pliny epistles were published in Italy 1471. There's no real first copy of Pliny the Elder, but there are none prior to 1400s. History can be easily forged, especially when we're discussing a period in which the Roman Church still had power over all of Europe, and then secretly moving her power into the Venetian families. Don't you think it's weird that the Romans had all this amazing technology and then somehow they just lost it? Concrete, aqueducts, paved roads, realistic sculpture, indoor flush toilets, greenhouses, and advanced architecture that we really couldn't even do today with modern technology. Yet somehow this was just all forgotten and then we went through a dark age for 1500 years? Then out of nowhere, literally, we have a shocking amount of progression of art, music, and literature, all coming from around the 17th century. Before that, there are very few examples, and their dates are questionable. The point being is that there's a huge gap between the time of Rome, through the Dark Ages, to all of a sudden all our music, art, and literature appearing out of nowhere during the Renaissance period. That doesn't make sense, and you don't just start making music like Beethoven out of nowhere in the 17th century. Same thing for all these Renaissance artists coming out of Italy. Not only was history and buildings hijacked, but art, culture, and music as well. There is proof to show that many of these old European churches were not actually designed to be churches, and that some of these old world buildings were designed to take in energy from the atmosphere. Where's the proof? Well, there are books on this subject. It's called Atmospheric Electricity. And yes, they were investigating how to harness this energy far before that story that they tell us in school of Benjamin Franklin discovering the
Wait. Free energy? Can we just get free energy in the chat if you're here, bro? Dang, we got a fucking crowd tonight, bro. We got some people up over on Facebook, bro. What's up, Facebook? What's good? Where's the hearts? Facebook? Where's the hearts? There we go. Shit, dude. We got freaking 10 up over here on Twitch. We got 12 people up over here on YouTube, bro. YouTube, thank you guys for showing out, bro. I need 3,000 hours watch time on YouTube. So the more you help, bro, the more you watch, bro, the more you're helping me. I'm just being 100 with you, all right? I'll go first. If nobody's told you today, you go. Ready? I'll go first again, and then you go. If nobody's told you today, yeah, you know what time it is, bro. I love you, bro.
Electrical nature of lightning. Like, they really played us for a joke. He flew a kite with a key on it. Guys, this is Freemasonic symbolism. Benjamin Franklin was literally at the highest rank of masonry, And you can even see the compass integrated with this famous painting. These old world buildings had technologies that were capable of extracting electricity from the atmosphere. You can even see these at the top of steeples. This is typically seen to be just a compass, but they're more than just that. There are videos of old temples with this technology still.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Are you guys seeing what I'm seeing? This is a video. Did you just see that clip? There's a clip right there, bro, with freaking energy, bro. You ready to watch it again?
Seen to be just a compass, but they're more than just that. There are videos of old temples with this technology still active. These electrical charging centers were then converted into physical worship centers. Now, that might be a little too fast, so let's slow down a bit and just speak facts. Throughout history, architecture has often been a target during times of war. Buildings would indeed be hijacked and repurposed to serve the needs of the conquering force. From ancient temples turned into churches to palaces converted into military barracks, the theft of architecture has had a huge impact on many societies. Almost all Catholic churches in history were built on old pagan temples. For example, several were supposedly converted into Christian churches during the 5th century AD. The Parthenon in Athens, the Temple of Jupiter in Rome, the Temple of Baal in Syria, the Temple of Artemis in Ephesus, and there are many more, but all of these were converted into Christian churches, showing how old world buildings were repurposed for a new agenda. It demonstrates how theft of architecture has been a recurring theme throughout history. But not only that, another aspect is iconoclasm, which is the destruction of religious images and symbols. Iconoclasm is a form of religious violence that has been used throughout history to destroy the past. One example of this is with the Huguenots, who were a group of French Protestants in the 16th and 17th centuries. The Huguenots were known for their iconoclastic tendencies, which led to the destruction of many Catholic churches and religious artifacts. During the Wars of Religion in France, the Huguenots targeted Catholic churches, destroying statues, paintings, and other religious artifacts. This was done in an attempt to cleanse the churches of what they saw as idolatrous symbols and to make them more in line with Protestant beliefs. Now, let's get really deep for a second. Some of you may be thinking, well, okay, so what happened to these Tartarians or ancient Irish civilizations? Obviously, there's no direct source for that question, so we're going to have to do some exploring. The next area we must explain when it comes to Tartaria is cataclysm. For some reason, this isn't something that gets a lot of attention in history class, but the medieval writers were constantly talking about cataclysms. And we're not talking about the flood of Atlantis, we're discussing cataclysms of fire and of earth, as described by Plato's Timaeus. Timaeus is Plato's most prized work, where he details the cycle and recess of multiple past civilizations, not just Atlantis. And knowing what we know now, it's possible that the work of Timaeus is actually from the 16th century and not from 2,000 years ago, which would bring an entirely different context to the story. All we know is that there have been several recent cataclysms, including several that are associated with comets in America. We have a few videos discussing this, even evidence to support that the Great Lakes in America were actually created in the 1600s. These cataclysms are important because it shows the civilization has gone through several resets. The most recent one that has had the most impact seems to be the War of 1812, which again not only had one of the largest earthquakes in history, but there was an 1812 comet as well. There's evidence to suggest that there was massive flooding all around the world in recent times, including mud floods. Many buildings and structures around the world that we see in the modern day, and even in downtown areas, seem to be in fact buried buildings, obscured by layers of mud and sediment. The idea of mud flood is that there was a series of floods that swept across the old world, burying entire towns and cities throughout Europe and America beneath layers of mud and debris. Now, to most people hearing that for the first time, that might sound ridiculous, but there is evidence to suggest that it may in fact be true. One strong argument is that in archaeology, there are ancient sites called tells, which is a mound consisting of accumulated debris and natural sediment. They are buried cities. Another argument, as we mentioned, is that many old world buildings, particularly those from the 17th to 19th centuries, have basements that extend far below the ground. These basements are often not visible from the surface, and yet they contain windows and doors that lead to nowhere. Also, let's not forget the countless accounts from ancient texts and legends that describe massive floods and cataclysmic events that swept across the old world. A manuscript called the Book of Miracles describes several cataclysms in detail, but it makes a very interesting point. They claim that these were not natural disasters, but disasters that were the work of a higher power, which goes to show that they were consciously created to some degree. Now, what you're about to hear is controversial, but there's always been a fascination with the Ark of the Covenant. These Canaanites had control of a very powerful weapon that is beyond the technology that we have today. It is said to be a weapon of mass destruction, and no, I don't think it has anything to do with aliens. If you ask me, it would seem that we're dealing with some black magic that involves the conscious creation of cataclysms. That might be a little too far in the deep side of the pool, so I'll come back a bit. But magic does come to play here. And no, we're not talking sorcery and fantasy magic. We're talking about how every royal court had an astrologer and master alchemist. They were not only trying to make predictions, but to force them to manifest their mass rituals. Obviously that's conjecture, but it's important to consider that it may have been possible through ritual or some type of unknown technology to influence the atmosphere or conditions in which produce certain cataclysmic conditions.
Or to create a homunculus.
New Madrid earthquakes during the 1812 period were the most intense recorded in American history. The extent of its damage is still not really known, yet there are clear indications in the modern day, and even in our scarce photographic record, we see photos in the late 1800s of them digging cities out of the mud. Why were all the streets made out of dirt and horse poop when the Romans had paved streets? Why was there no proper waste management in the United States until after the 1900s? Well, it's because they found these cities and had no idea how to operate them. They came in and started putting waste and water into a single pipe, many of which were old water tunnels for drainage. And what happened? Great stinks, massive cholera epidemics all over the United States, all the way into the late 19th century. Doesn't add up how they were building all this grand architecture from Civil War forts, otherwise known as star forts, all the way to massive mansions from the Gilded Age. Yet, they had no bathrooms or plumbing systems? This gets into some other deep subjects, such as the diet and spiritual capabilities of these prior inhabitants, but much of that information will be too much for most of you new to the subject.
Let me ask you this, guys. Can I ask just a real question, bro? Do you know what he's talking about? Have you went down the Tartaria rabbit hole far enough to know exactly what he's talking about the pooping in these buildings and it causing plagues and stuff? It goes deep, bro. It goes deep. It's because they didn't have like the modern toilet system we have now, because they didn't poop really. And why do you think they didn't poop? Oh, it's because they had these cathedrals that had these organs that were built into the foundation of the cathedral, and the whole cathedral was made with sacred geometry and with frequencies and all of that stuff into it. So when they would play the organ and they would all go into this, they would not only heal them, but it would also raise the vibration of the whole entire community to such a high standard that there's people that believe that it's because you would, and then it would cause you to eat less, which means that you wouldn't poop very much. So there wasn't toilets everywhere. That's a weird one, huh? That they didn't poo? Just spam poo emojis all over in every chat, please.
These star forts are Civil War forts. Have you been to one? One of the most massive one is in Pensacola on a beach. Good luck explaining how they went about building that on soft sand in the early 1800s. But forgetting that, they had these all over the East Coast and even in San Francisco. Yet the explanation is that they were built during the Civil War era to protect America's coast. But this isn't true, as many of these forts are actually based on older forts supposedly, and there were massive forts being constructed by the Spanish and French when they first arrived as well. Although, the museums like to make you think that they were just building wooden presidios. The entire story of the colonization of America is a fabrication. We're told the story that these countries such as Spain, France, and England were all fighting each other in the pursuit of the colonization of America. Yeah, but who were they working for? Who funded these projects? Well, they were all under control of the Holy Roman Church. The proof is in the coat of arms. What do you think a coat of arms is? Type in the Triumphal Arch of Maximilian, which is a 16th century woodcut showing you all the Roman-controlled minions. This is one huge royal bloodline operation, and that is the history that we receive. These Civil War forts or bastions or star forts were already in America, and every major European ancient city was once a fortified city. That's the secret of Amsterdam and Paris. They are massive star forts. Star forts contain multiple layers, including an underground tunnel system. You can see many of these European star forts on many 16th century maps, showing that they weren't just bastions used for wars, but they were also used for the creation of massive cities. One of the most immediate questions from someone new to the subject is, well, why would they do this, and who are they? Why lie about everything? What's the need to want to cover up history? Well, because these occult societies were in control by royalty and the church, and this church was a hijacked church that belonged to a previous civilization. But not only that, the control of information is necessary in the resetting of a society. This is constantly referenced in Hollywood movies as well, where the elites of a society keep the hidden history away from the people for the greater good. That's what we're discussing. Royal elite bloodlines, who funded occult Protestant thinkers to create a brand new Atlantis, as conceived by Francis Bacon, a scientifically ruled society that would exist for eternity and never fall again. So why would this be suppressed? Well, if we all knew that we were a reset population and that there were advanced civilizations before us with superior technology that did not charge for energy resources, then that would make us much more difficult to control. As we mentioned, that some of the old world buildings seem to be made with the purpose of extracting energy from the atmosphere. But on top of that, they had dirigibles that could travel on essentially free power, if not cheap, clean energy. This would also transport mass amounts of goods, possibly even for moving buildings. Why do you think there was a cameraman right there ready to capture the destruction of the Hindenburg? It was to erase the old model based on clean energy and to implement a new system of dirty oil energy. That's not the only reason. Like we said, this all started with the corrupted cult of Baal, the religion of the Canaanites. One of the things that Charlie said is that people just like to believe the most unhinged things for no real reason and they don't even gain anything out of it. And of course he's right that people do tend to think conspiracies when it comes to large amounts of power and money, but there is a reason for that. But that's not the only reason we've come to the conclusions that we've come to. What this comes down to is attempting to understand our realm. But not only that, questioning the status quo that was literally forced down our throats. What do we get out of it? How about just understanding our past and just being more curious? I mean, reality is far stranger than fiction. And we're taught a boring, dull version of history in the school system, much of which leads people to not really care about life. He also said that he didn't think the elite weirdos really cared about religion. In a way, he's right, but he's also ignoring that they are inversionists and occultists. The elites care about religion in the way that they like to make a mockery of it. And again, we're not religious or Christians. Sure, there's a lot of satanic hype going on right now, and probably for a good reason, because people are sort of recognizing unsettling patterns within these certain symbols. We're taught that man is at its pinnacle today, as if we reached our max point in evolution. However, I think it's quite blatant that really isn't the case when you see the level of awareness in the media and our culture today. It's arguably more accurate to say that we have de-evolved as a species, but in a larger context compared to the civilizations of the ancients, a massive amount of knowledge and intelligence has been lost compared to what was once achieved in the past. Don't you think it's strange that we've just lost the ability to build these structures? I mean, compare an old world city to the modern day. It's shocking how much we lost, and our new construction methods of modernism are not designed to last. It's not to say that we don't have the technology, but that you would think there would be an evolution from the advanced architectures and early styles in America, but instead all we get is a bunch of cheap box buildings. If you want to tell Charlie to check this out, that'd be cool.
Exactly, bro. What happened, bro? What freaking happened, bro? I don't know. Do you guys think Tartaria is real? I definitely do. The cool thing, if I'm just going to show you right here, bro. The cool thing about Mind Unveiled, bro, he provides sources and shit, where he got it from, where he's got all of his shit. Mind Unveiled's goated, bro. Who's here? Who's here? Oh, you're right. Oh, I am tired, bro. I'm going to see you guys tomorrow, bro. If this is your first night coming here, bro, first stream, first evening here, I love you so much. I stream in the evenings on Thursday nights, 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Every other weekday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday. It's roughly between 12 and 12:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. What's up, Sam? I am. How are you? Can we get some Team Humans in the chat? What's up? What's up, B Craw? What's goody? What's goody? What's goody? Who's here? Hell yeah. All right, guys. Get some sleep, bro. Because I will see you tomorrow.